welcome back. Here is our next case study from CA Final Paper 3 ICA booklet on MCQs and case-based scenarios. Case study number 27. CA Dev was involved in practice of statutory audit from last 27 years. He is a statutory auditor of 19 public limited companies, out of which 7 are listed. He is also a statutory auditor of 6 one-person companies. Out of 19 public companies, 7 are PSU, 4 are involved in banking business, 2 are life insurance companies, and others are private sector companies. His friend, Mr. Suyog, was MD of health insurance company and wants to appoint CA Dev as statutory auditor of health life insurance company. There is a quite different diversification of clients of Mr. Dev. Few are from insurance, tea business, and FMCG as well. CA Dev still wants to increase the area of his practice. Mintcoin Limited was involved in the business of assisting startups to raise funds from venture capitalists. It had a huge network of venture capitalists, which was very useful in serving the clients. But Mintcoin Limited lacked a financial expert who can present the financial statements of startups to venture capitalists. Mintcoin Limited contacted CA Dev, who was a practicing chartered accountant. But as he holds certificate of practice, he cannot work as a full-time employee of Mintcoin Limited. So it was agreed that rather than salary, CA Dev will charge 2% of the amount priced as consultancy fee and will continue with his practice. It was also agreed that he will not be an employee of Mintcoin Limited and will provide direct fundraising services to startups in collaboration with Mintcoin. CA Dev was statutory auditor of Safety Limited. It was an insurance company having fire and marine insurance products. In case of marine insurance, it had a risk of nearly 100 to 120 crore, and in case of fire insurance, 70% of fire insurance premium was received from Star Hotels. Safety Limited has a policy that in case of marine insurance, it will not hold risk of more than 50 crore. Hence, Safety Limited signed a contract for 5 years with Help Limited, which was involved in the business of reinsurance to cede risk above 50 crore for 40% of marine insurance. Sorry. Yes, 40% of marine insurance premium. Because of change in business environment, Safety Limited entered a separate contract with Help Limited to reinsure fire insurance of Star Hotels, where Help Limited will bear 40% of risk in returns of 40% of premium from Star Hotels. Net premium used for calculation of unexpired risk reserve of marine hull insurance is 70 crores and marine cargo insurance is 40 crores. Total net premium of fire insurance for 80 crores at the end of the year. CA Dev was confused as to how to calculate unexpired risk reserve. CA Dev is a statutory auditor of Tata Tea Limited as well. It has set up its manufacturing plant in the backward areas of West Bengal. It has been set up under production linked investment scheme of government. The turnover of immediately preceding financial year of the company is 60 crore. Along with manufacturing of tea, Tata Tea Limited also produces electricity from its own solar plant, whose electricity is used by Tata Tea Limited in its manufacturing activities. CA Dev is statutory auditor of FMCG Giant Premium Limited as well. Premium Limited is a listed company and 47th largest company of India in terms of market capitalization. The promoter of the company is Mr. Hari, but he doesn't hold any management position in this company. His brother, Mr. Tari, is a non-executive chairman of Premium Limited. There sits a total of 16 directors, including Mr. Suyog on board of Premium Limited. The Board of Directors, are considering to form an audit committee consisting of 9 directors. Mr. Tari seeks advice from CA Dev as to number of independent directors to be a part of audit committee of this company. On the basis of the above mentioned facts, you are required to answer the following MCQs. Question number 27.1. Is the act of CA Dev of charging 2% consultation fee for amounts raised by startups a professional misconduct? Please answer specifying the relevant clause. No, this is not a professional misconduct under Regulation 192 of CA Act. Therefore, CA Dev is not guilty of professional misconduct. And therefore, the answer is option B. I'll give you a reference to the study material also. See here it under page 18.68, Regulation 192 has been given. Let's go through it. No chartered accountant in practice shall charge or offer to charge, accept or offer to accept in respect of any professional work fees which are based on percentage of profits or which are contingent upon findings or results of such work, provided that. So there is an exception given here. Go through point number E. In the case of certain fundraising services, the fees may be based on the percentage of funds raised. So based on this, we can say that CA Dev is not guilty of professional misconduct as he is abide by Regulation 192 of CA Act. Therefore, option B is the correct option. Option A is also saying no. We'll go through it. No, it is not a misconduct if a specific permission is granted by the ICAI. No, as the Regulation 192 is clear about this point, there is no particular permission or a specific request that can be made to ICAI for granting of permission. Therefore, option B is the correct option. Option C and option D is saying CA Dev is guilty of professional misconduct, which is not correct. Therefore, option C, D are not correct. We'll go through the next question, 27.2. Can CA Dev accept the appointment of statutory auditor of health insurance company? Give the reason for your opinion. Even for this, I have taken a screenshot. Just give me a second. Yes, here it is under page number 10.8, appointment of auditors. Just go through the highlighted points. An auditor can conduct audit only for 3 insurance companies and not more than 2 life or 2 general insurance companies. Therefore, auditor can accept 3 insurance companies. Out of the 3, 2 can be life or can be general insurance companies. He cannot accept all 3 as life insurance companies or all 3 as general insurance companies. Therefore, in the given situation, CA Dev cannot accept any more health life insurance companies. The question is asking, can CA Dev accept the appointment of statutory auditor of health life insurance company? No, because he is already performing 2 life insurance company audits. He cannot accept. Therefore, option D, no. As the total number of audits of life insurance company a CA can perform is 2. Hence, CA Dev cannot accept one more statutory audit of health life insurance company. Are you clear with this point? You might be wondering where this 2 came from. Let me just show you. In the first paragraph of question itself, it is saying, go through the 5th point. 2 are life insurance companies and others are private sector companies. So out of 19 audits that he is going on, 2 are from life insurance companies. Therefore, he cannot accept one more life insurance company audit. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Anyways, you might be understood that A, B, C are saying that he can accept, which is wrong. 27. What is the type of treaty that Safety Limited has signed with the Help Limited for reinsuring its marine business? Let me just take you through the point where this particular treaty has been entered. See here from the fourth line from the end, Safety Limited has a policy that in case of marine insurance, it will not hold risk of more than 50 crores. Hence, Safety Limited signed a contract for 5 years with Help Limited, which was involved in the business of reinsurance, to cede risk over 50 crores for 40% of marine insurance premium. Yes, sir. Till here, this particular treaty has come to an end. So, Safety Limited has retained 50 crores of risk. Over and above 50 crores has been delegated to Help Limited. Hope you are clear with this point. This is a type of reinsurance which is surplus proportional treaty reinsurance. Hope you are clear. Let me just take you through the point. See, this is what it is. What is surplus share treaty? I have tried to identify this from study material, but I am unable to find. This is what I have taken from Google. A surplus share treaty is a reinsurance treaty in which the ceding insurer retains a fixed amount of policy liability and the reinsurer takes a responsibility for what remains. So this is a clear case of treaty surplus proportional treaty reinsurance. Hope you have got what I'm trying to explain you. If at all you are not clear with this point, please comment below. Okay, this is a special type of surplus proportional treaty reinsurance, wherein in this kind of reinsurance the cedar will retain a fixed amount of risk and the balance has been delegated to the reinsurance company. Here Safety Limited has retained risk up to 50 crores and the balance has been delegated to Help Limited. Hope you are clear with this point, and therefore this is a category of special surplus proportional treaty reinsurance. This is with regard to marine insurance. Okay, we'll go through the next question, 27.4. What is the type of treaty that Safety Limited has signed with Help Limited for reinsuring its Star Hotels assets? What is that? It is a facultative reinsurance. Let me just take you to the point. See, the first paragraph. Because of change in the business environment, Safety Limited entered a separate contract with Help Limited to reinsure fire insurance of Star Hotels, where Help Limited will bear 40% risk in returns of 40% premium from Star Hotels. Okay, suppose the total insurance premium is 100 rupees, out of which 40 rupees will be taken, will be given to Help Limited for reinsurance, and Help Limited will bear 40% of the risk. So what kind of a risk that, what kind of reinsurance treaty is this? This is a facultative reinsurance. See, this particular thing has been given in our study material. Facultative reinsurance. It is that type of reinsurance whereby the contract relates to one particular risk and is expressed in a reinsurance policy. This is the oldest method of reinsurance and it initiates consideration of each risk separately. So till here, if you have understood, then that is fine. Facultative reinsurance is like if you want to reinsure only a particular type of asset, then it is called a facultative reinsurance. In the given question, Safety Limited is reinsuring fire insurance of only Star Hotels. Not all fire insurances are being reinsured by Safety Limited. This particular reinsurance that has been entered by Safety Limited to safeguard its risk of Star Hotels, only Star Hotels, fire insurance of only Star Hotels, is a type of facultative reinsurance. Hope you are clear. Please note that Safety Limited is not reinsuring its entire fire insurance business. It is only reinsuring the fire insurance of Star Hotels. So it is particular to one separate asset or one separate client. So this is a facultative reinsurance. Hope you are clear with these two questions. I am in doubt whether you will understand or not. If you are not understanding, please comment below. Okay. So 27.3 and 27.4. I hope you are clear with these 2 points. We'll go through the next question. 27.5. Which of the following statements is correct for Tata Tea Limited in regard to Section 148 of Companies Act 2013, read with Rule 4 on applicability of cost audit? See, basically, you should at least keep this point in mind that all tea, coffee, all these things will come under table B. Okay, of this particular rule. What is this table B? There is also table A, right? Regulated sectors and non-regulated sectors. So with regard to applicability of cost records and cost audit, all the companies has been divided into two tables. Table A is dealing with regulated sector. A regulated sector, you can say it is like electricity, so infrastructure. All these were regulated sectors. And non-regulated sectors, one of them is a tea. tea manufacturing companies or non-regulated sectors. So they need to maintain both the regulated and non-regulated sectors are required to maintain cost records. That is the mandatory. So Tata Tea Limited is coming into which category? It is coming into non-regulating sectors. That is table B. So if it is falling under table B, non-regulated sector, then it has to obviously maintain cost records. That was the mandatory. And when with regard to applicability of cost audit is applicable to table B only if the aggregate turnover of all the products or services is 100 crores or more, and this particular product line or service line, if it is generating more than 35 crores of revenue, then it is required to undergo for tax audit, cost audit. Therefore, in the current situation, Tata Tea Limited, where it is been given, yes, here it is. Tata Tea Limited, the overall turnover of immediately preceding financial year is only 60 crore. So it is falling under table B. Therefore, cost audit limit for table B companies are 100 crores. 100 crores of immediately preceding financial year. Therefore, here in the given case, Tata Tea Limited is not obligated to go for cost audit, but it is obligated to maintain cost records. Hope you are clear with this point. If you have any doubt, please go through this table B and identify that tea manufacturing companies are there in table B or not. And after identifying, please do check the applicability of cost audit. Okay, since Tata Tea Limited is covered under table B, that is non-regulated sector, it is obligated to maintain cost records. But since the total overall turnover of the preceding financial year is 60 crores, that means it is not exceeding 100 crores, or even the individual product. We have not been given the details of individual product wise turnover. So we will be going only with regard to the total turnover basis. So total turnover is not exceeding 100 crores. Therefore, it is not required to go for cost audit. Always remember, never ever go beyond the question. Don't take logics, because your logic sometimes fails. Don't take logic that Tata Tea Limited means it is manufacturing only tea. So the entire turnover is only from tea. Who knows whether the Tata Tea Limited is also into manufacturing of other products or other services? You don't know, right? So the question is very specific. The total turnover of the preceding financial year is 60 crores. And moreover, the specific product line turnover has not been given in the question. Okay, therefore option C, Tata Tea Limited will have to maintain cost records but would not be subject to cost audit. What other options are saying? Option A says Tata Tea Limited will have to maintain cost records and would be subject to cost audit as a turnover of previous year is 50 crores, more than 50 crores. No, because it is falling under table B. If it is under table A, then option A is correct. Okay, but tea manufacturing companies will fall under non-regulated sector, that is table B. Therefore, option A is wrong. Option B says Tata Tea Limited will have to maintain cost records and would be subject to cost audit as the turnover of previous financial year is more than 35 crores. No, 35 crores is only with respect to a particular line item, and that too, question is not clearly given that the entire turnover of Tata Tea Limited is from tea manufacturing, tea product line only. Therefore, option B is also wrong. Option D says that Tata Tea Limited is not required to maintain cost records, which is not correct. It is required to maintain cost records as it is falling under table B. Next question, 27.6. In relation to corporate governance and in compliance with regulations 17 and 17A, what would be the minimum number of independent directors on the board of Premium Limited? You through the question where this Premium Limited number of directors has been discussed. The question is saying that Premium Limited is holding some 16 directors, it seems. Yes. See, go through fourth line from this particular paragraph about this. There sits a total of 16 directors, including Mr. Suyog, on board of Premium Limited. board of directors considering to form an audit committee consisting of 9 directors. That's a different matter. So there exists a total of 16 directors on board. Now the question is asking how many independent directors should be there as per regulation 17 and 17A. Let me just take you through the study material wherein it says 50% has to be independent directors. Let me just take you through. So this particular thing is with regard to regulation 17 and 17A. Let's go through the second point. The auditor should also verify that where the chairman of a board is a non-executive director, at least 1/3 of the board should comprise of independent directors. And in case of a listed entity doesn't have a regular non-executive chairman, at least half of the board of directors should comprise independent directors. So here, Premium Limited, we need to check whether Premium Limited is a listed entity or not. See, it is Giant FMCG Premium Limited is a listed company. Okay. And Mr. Tari is a non-executive chairman of Premium Limited. So there exists a non-executive chairman of the board. Then at least 1/3 of the board should comprise of independent directors. Okay. So it is saying at least 1/3 of total directors, that is 16 upon 3. So it will give you around 6. Hope you are clear with this. So till here you are clear that the company should have at least 6 independent directors. But before finalizing, let me just take you through the balance part of this point. It is saying further, if the regular non-executive chairman is a promoter of a listed entity or is related to any promoter or person occupying management positions at the board level or at one level below the board, at least 1/2 of the board of listed entity shall consist of independent directors. So here, if you have identified that Mr. Tari is relating to, where it is, see, Mr. Tari is related to the director, is the brother of promoter. It means he is related to promoter of the company. Therefore, the answer should be 50% of the total board directors. That is 16 into 50%, which is 8. I'm repeating it again for your sake. Don't be confused. Let me get it into shortcut. See, this particular Premium Limited is having total of 16 directors. And it has Mr. Tari as a non-executive chairman of the board. Please note that Mr. Tari is a brother of Mr. Hari, who is the promoter of the company. Therefore, Mr. Tari is holding non-executive director position, non-executive chairman position, but he is relating to the promoter. Moreover, Premium Limited is a listed company. I hope till here you are clear with this point. Now let us go through regulation number 17 and 17A. This second point, please go through it line by line. The auditor should also verify that where the chairman of a board is a non-executive director, at least 1/3 of the board should comprise of independent directors. And in case of listed entity doesn't have a regular non-executive director, at least half of the board of directors should comprise independent directors. But in this particular case, we are having a non-executive director. Therefore, the first point of 1/3 board of directors should apply. But here, non-executive director is a brother of promoter. Therefore, we'll continue further. Further, if the regular non-executive chairman is a promoter of a listed entity or is related to any promoter or person occupying management positions at the board level or at one level below the board, then at least 1/2 of the board of listed entity shall consist of independent directors. Since in the present case, Mr. Tari is a brother of Mr. Hari, Mr. Hari is a promoter of Premium Limited, and Premium Limited is a listed company, it should have 50% as independent directors. Total number of directors with the Premium Limited is 16. Therefore, 50% of 16 is 8. Therefore, the answer to the question is 8. Guys, this question is having too much complications. If you are clear, please comment as I am understood. If you are not clear, please comment your doubt. Okay. So, answer to this question is 8. Hope you are clear. Option A is the correct option. We'll go through the last question of this case study. Question number 27.7. What should be the correct statement from below in regard to the number of independent directors for audit committee of Premium Limited? It is as simple as such, right? What is simple? What do you understand? The board of directors was considering to form an audit committee consisting of 9 directors. So we know that the total number of independent directors should be in an audit committee should be 2/3 of the total directors. So 2/3 of 9 is 6. Therefore, 6 independent directors should be there in the audit committee, and all the 9 directors should have ability to read the financial statements. Therefore, answer to this question is there should be at least 6 independent directors in audit committee, and 9 directors should have ability should have knowledge to read the financial statements. Therefore, option C is the correct option. Don't get confused between option C and option D. Option D is saying only 6 directors should have knowledge to read the financial statements, which is not correct. All the directors of the audit committee should have knowledge to read the financial statements. Therefore, option C is the correct option. Option A and option B is wrong because at least 2/3 of the total number of directors should be independent directors. 2/3 of 9 is getting to 6. Therefore, option A and option B is wrong. Option C is the final answer. With this, we have completed case study number 27. Hope you are clear with these points. If you are clear and if you are able to understand what I am saying, please comment like I am understood, everything is clear. If you have any doubts, please comment below with the question number and the page number so that it will be easy for me to identify. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.